All right.
Hi guys, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is. Main thing is you're here. I apologize, we're a couple of seconds late. We tried to do something new, which is streaming straight into the Facebook group. So we're going to see if there's any reaction there when that pops up in there. Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. It's the 25th of September, and we're going to go into October soon. And the weather is going to be getting a little bit cooler up here in the Northern Hemisphere. In the Southern Hemisphere, they're going to be happy and looking forward to spring. So the Gin and Tonic Show is a show that is focused on Islam. So what we do is we always start off the show with an intro where we provide a statement, who we are, what we do, what we don't do, so that people know where we stand and what to expect from us. So then after that, we're going to go and we have different topics where there's a news section, there's a segment where we go through the Koran, there's an area of, let's call it Dawah in action response segment, where we look at things, we look at Krazy Komments, and then finally we're going to go and close that whole thing off with a Hadith of the week. And if this is not enough Islam for you, we still have the Discord channel, Discord server on Discord, where you can go and join, which is not being recorded here. Please be aware that everything that you are saying here, everything that you do here is being recorded and published live on YouTube and Facebook. So we help Muslims and non-Muslims alike to understand and handle Islam in the 21st century. Now, we're not looking at 7th century because things were a little bit different then. It's here today. So we inspect, investigate, analyze, research, and then we do this diligently, by the way, and then we report and critique. If you want to comment, question, or just curious about anything, well, come to the right place. Now, be advised, we don't attack, which is aggressive, destructive, and antagonistic, and we don't attack neither Islam nor Muslims. We ask questions, we show facts, we refute false claims, and we present the reality of Islam, and which is mostly political Islam. So we focus only on Islam. In other words, you will not hear us go into different ideologies. And what you will notice is we embrace free speech and criticism, and we really appreciate if you provide factual and constructive criticism, because that's how people learn. We think we are decent human beings, so we condemn and categorically condemn any abuse, any oppression, misogyny, slavery, violence, all those things. We don't like them. We try and let the Quran speak for itself, and we try to only go to the scholars if necessary and if it helps to make a specific point. The live stream goes to YouTube and Facebook, and you can participate either in the written chat, in the live stream written chat. You can join the panel here and communicate with us if there's a point that you want to raise, or you can watch later and comment the show afterwards. And anyone can come to comment, critique, contribute a question, because we are not a Dawah or anything channel where we restrict participation and we take the microphone away and we don't mute people artificially. Everything is for free, so don't try and give us money. And that's it from me. Welcome to the panel, which at the moment is only consisting of Rob. We're waiting for Thunder and maybe Mustafa a little bit later, and we'll see how that goes. How has the week been for you, sir?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Stops. Welcome to the show. It's been crazy busy. Only finished at 7 o'clock, well, 6:30 this evening, so that's good. The week is behind. Lots of hard work done and a little bit of income coming in, so that's helpful. And looking forward to the show and a restful weekend. How about you?
Yeah, I've actually had one day, I think I actually told you, where I had to skip lunch because I just didn't have the time. And this is all without Ramadan or anything. So yeah, it's sometimes it just doesn't work. There's only one person, and then when you hear different things going on, and you need to react quickly, and then you try and communicate this to people, and then no, they're not doing this, and then you need to do it yourself. Then it gets a bit hectic. But as you say, there's some bucks coming in, and that's good.
Yep.
Well, I had some more time because this is now going into the news already. I was banned from Facebook for a day. It's the first time I've been banned from Facebook. Why was I banned? Well, it was a spelling error. I think it was autocorrect or something, because I suddenly got a message. Listen, you have posted something that goes against our community guidelines. I thought, what the fuck now? And they showed me something that I didn't write, or I thought I didn't write. But then I realized, well, yeah, it was, because I was reacting to what some people were telling me, that I was a fool. And there's some crazy comments you'll see later, and you'll see that I think I was justified. So I said, you don't have a point, you don't have this, whatever you're doing. And I said, you guys are pathetic. But then I must have made a mistake with the word guys, because it corrected it to gays. So YouTube, Facebook, saw a comment, you gays are pathetic. And of course it didn't see it in context. It didn't understand what was going on. So this was AI at its worst, saying, listen, you're an idiot. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to tell gays that they are pathetic. Now, the funny thing is, even if I was saying that, I should be allowed to tell gays that they are pathetic if they do some funny things, if they make stupid comments. Not every time I say you gays are pathetic, am I being homophobic, or I am being, I don't know what. But this is the way that I think the new reality is. Yeah, autocorrect will start a war one day. So anyway, so I was bad for saying, you gays are pathetic. I mean, it was only a day, so it's something to laugh over. I mean, it can be worse, because if I do that again, I'm sure they're going to increase it. So I just need to be a little bit more careful. Now, another item I want to point out, and this is actually quite a serious one. I don't know if you guys remember, a couple of weeks ago, Dawah had this thing where they were bringing up topics which were of interest to atheists like me. So I went on there, and I was on the panel, and there was this guy, Ijaz. I didn't know what to make of him, but I thought he was just silly. He didn't make much sense. He didn't bring anything up. Now, so he is one of these Dawah Muslim apologists. And now what has happened is he has shown his true colors. He's going crazy, trying to get people in trouble by releasing photos and personal information like address, phone numbers. And, if he doesn't like somebody, this is what he does. Now, somebody else commented that, it seems that he's actually really mentally ill. And this whole thing has now excited him so much that his brain has worn out or something, and now pushed him over the brink. And you'll see one of the crazy comments by him, because this is something that we need to worry about. And this is why I am tremendously glad that I never went public, even though I was tempted many, many times, even though many, many times I said to myself, look, it's not that bad, okay? That they're not going to be able to do anything really. Yeah, but they do. You see, this is the problem. And I always think about rationalizing, and this is something that will stick in my brain forever and ever, because he said he was walking down the road, and on the other side of the road, he saw a Muslim who looked at him just for half a millisecond longer than is common. And immediately his thought went, oh shit, is this a guy who's seen me on Facebook? Is this a guy who recognizes me? Is this a guy I need to now be careful of? And this is why I'm incredibly glad that I never went public with my face, my name, my information, my everything. I know that Muslims are trying to taunt me, are trying to say, you're a coward for hiding behind a fake identity. And there's a reason, guys. There really is a reason, and I'm very happy that I did it. So, yeah. Okay, another item I have, and this is also quite worrying, because Turkey is moving ever closer to Islamism and to ISIS, unfortunately. So they're trying to buddy up because Erdogan sees himself as a strongman, and he thinks he can be a caliph, and he thinks he can go into the, the footsteps of the great names in Islam, and this is what he's trying to do. So this is, I don't know where this is going to end, because now he's threatening. He's threatening Europe. He's threatening NATO. He's threatening all sorts of groups now, because he says, well, I've got a couple of million refugees. I know you paid for this. I know you gave me the money to look after them. I know you paid for the, for the tents and for like building a whole city and that. But if you let me cross, I'm going to release them. And the way that he's going towards Greece and things like that, it's really not good. Then the other thing is, and this is something that Harris Sultan is really pointing out, and he's doing a marvelous job with this, because in recent years, a record number of cases have been filed under Pakistan's blasphemy law. That's really crazy. And Harris is doing a wonderful job exposing that and making sure that people see this, that there's really a problem in Pakistan. And with that, Koran versus COVID, who will emerge victorious? Welcome, V, the thunderous Koran versus COVID. Who will emerge victorious? This is actually, it is a question. Who will emerge victorious? I don't know. Well, Koran is being shaken at the moment, so I don't know. It's a toss-up.
Evening.
Good evening, guys. Sorry for being late. I apologize to the panel, and I apologize to the audience.
Yes, you will be treated accordingly. You will be flogged in public in the city square.
Did you see, speaking of flogging, there was somebody that, some people think it's good anyway, but there was a child rapist in Indonesia who was sentenced to 175 lashes, and he'd spent 6 months, I think, in jail. So he got one. Every month it was spent, they took off one lash. They had 169, and he collapsed after 52. And so he was taken to hospital, but he still has 117 to go. So he's going to be coming back for that. So they do lash them in
wow.
I think it's Philippines or Indonesia, one of the two.
Crazy. Yeah, welcome to modern Islam in the 21st century. And welcome to Europe in the 21st century, because Muslims went to court and they won. They are now allowed to use loudspeakers to go and scream out the call to prayer, because they won in a court battle in a German town. And the judge said every society must accept that one will sometimes be aware that others exercise their faith. So I wonder what happened to freedom from religion. That this is not a factor that people can demand anymore. So all of a sudden, we, the non-believers, have to listen to this nonsense. We have to listen to all these things saying, yeah, come here, you have to pray to your God, and blah, blah, blah. Why? Why can't I have freedom from religion? And I think this is quite crazy that people automatically, because I think this judge then is probably, of some religious whatever. For me, it's unbelievable. And the same thing is happening now in Scandinavia, where anti-Islam protests spark debate on free speech. Are we allowed to protest Islam? This is where we are. This is where we are today in our freedom of everything, society, group, wherever we are. I think this is really terrible. Okay, any comments on the news or anything else that you want to contribute or come up with?
I've come to the show a little bit late, so I don't know what you guys have covered, but I did pick up during the week that one of the Dawah is in Indonesia or Malaysia. Minj, I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, got caught and arrested for child pornography. I don't know if you guys picked up on that.
Yeah, Rob just mentioned that.
Oh, has he? So sorry, Rob, if I'm stealing your thunder, but
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was child rape. So I don't know if maybe there was another one as well.
yeah, Minj sounds like a complete vagina to me. That, but he got caught with some. He got arrested, funnily enough. But it'd be interesting to see how the Islamic world takes that, because in Islamic law, is that actually a crime when you consider your prophet married a 6-year-old girl and has sex with her when she was 9? If your moral standard is you can actually perform the physical act of sexual intercourse with a 9-year-old girl being a 54-year-old man, where is the law lying if you're just looking at images?
Okay, so that is different. Yeah. And it's a good question because a lot of countries are implementing the part of Sharia where the legal age for marriage is 0 and the legal age of sex actually is taken as 9 years old. And this is now regardless of whether she started menstruation or not. So this is quite sad.
Yeah, I think there was a case Europe maybe about 4 years ago where some guy in his 30s wanted his 14-year-old wife to come over, his second or third wife, and and he went to the Court of Human Rights, that it was his human right to have his wife with him, and it was against her human rights to be separated from her husband.
No.
So the where it's very much a muddying up of the waters, because I think we discussed this or touched on it a couple of weeks ago with reference to the Muslim that murdered 2 women and kept their bodies in a freezer. But he himself, at the age of 22, married a 14-year-old girl in a mosque with an imam, with an audience, which is illegal in this country. And I think stops. You mentioned there that there's a 2-tier system. There's the law of the land, the Queen's law, as it were, in England, and you have Sharia law, which totally operates independent from that, irrespective of it, and doesn't care much for it. So you can see an incremental increase in the influence of Sharia in these countries as a result. And one of the avenues they're pursuing is human rights.
And this is interesting. Reanimator is just saying that there's a distinction in the European court between child marriage and pedophilia. So quite funny that. All right, I've got some crazy comments where. All right, this is what I was talking about, where this guy who calls himself a scholar, who calls himself a sheikh, made a video, and then when I commented, he says, well, thank you to all the Islamophobes, because he's like, this is his only thing, Islamophobia, that's all he has, for proving what I said about the demeanor of the Islamophobes. I hope my Muslim brothers and as sisters are taking note. This is the guy who has the certificate for persuasive writing. Yeah. And the funny thing is, some of the people watched my video, but they didn't realize that when I said that his course could have been done in 16 hours, didn't realize I was talking about him. Somebody actually went and said, oh, so you are the one who admits that he has learned everything about Islam in 16 hours. Like, you sit there and you think, what the hell are you saying? You didn't understand anything of what I said, and you only heard something about 16 hours, and now misrepresent that, put this into a totally different context, and now you think you're making a point. Wonderful. Anyway, so I have been awarded here the Moomish, I don't know what that is, Moomish Award. I don't know. Now, the funny thing is, some guy says, prick you full of it. And then you're a mental case. And then this sheikh, okay, who knows Islam and who knows that the Quran tells you to debate with me in the best possible manner, says, please watch the video. You will realize that they are reacting, and we explain the third session of the video how to deal with them. Well, they don't. He never does. But he
Who's
gives.
we? They. Like him and his spirit, or him and his soul, or him and Allah, or what?
Yeah. Well, he has some sort of a partner sometimes.
All right.
I don't know who that is, from this institute or something. But, you know, it's so weird what these guys are saying, and that they're not making any kind of sense. Then we have somebody, lol, I see your post. There is no reason to talk or answer to you. You're an ignorant Christian or whatever you call yourself. You're not here to debate or to bring facts. You're just here hating on Muslims, but you know what? More you hating, we grow more. So you can keep eating because I think you like it. Okay. I think this is somebody who doesn't like
not
me.
even coherent.
Maybe he should take the course of persuasive writing.
But
The funny thing is, they still think that I am a Christian, because in their minds, if the second you say anything in the least critical of Islam, you must be a Christian. There's no other way. Like in some communities, Muslim apologist communities, you're automatically a Jew. You're a Zionist, and you're being paid by Mossad and all these things. And here, in this sort of fraternity, I'm a Christian. No. Oh wow, where's this from?
I think this is a quote maybe from one of these European court justices or something. Maybe reanimated.
Presenting objects of religious worship in a provocative way. So what am I doing? Let's say I'm taking the crescent moon, which is an object of religious worship, in a provocative way. So I'm taking the moon and putting it on my head or something, capable of hurting the feelings. Who the fuck cares if I'm hurting anybody's feelings? It's their problem. If they want to hurt their feelings, it's not my problem. The followers of that religion could be conceived as a malicious violation of the spirit of tolerance. No, they need to be tolerant and take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, I mean, that's just such nonsense, right? You wonder if somebody that's supposed to be a legal expert can write such drivel.
So what are you supposed to do? I said, the funny thing is, people still don't understand the difference between Islam and Christianity, or Judaism, or Hinduism, or Islam is different. And we're not talking about the spiritual, religious, or whatever side you want to call it. We're talking about the political side. We're talking about the laws. We're talking about the interaction between people and what you're supposed to do on this planet here. If somebody just wants to go and pray and go to heaven, well, why should I care? But it's the political side that we're talking about. Oh, goodness. Okay, so now this guy, this sheikh himself, replied, thank you for the usual squealing and fussing about what exactly? You're being upset about... Oh, you are. Okay, this is persuasive writing at work. You are being upset about Islam? Yes, you're right that I am upset about Islam, and I have every reason to be upset about Islam. I don't condone slavery. I don't condone anything that you find in the Quran that is so negative. And now this is what he says. I have written a 500, it's all about the numbers, isn't it? 500-page, capital P, book, responding to some of the silly insinuations from bigots and haters. I don't know who they are. You are welcome to refute it in writing if you like. Do you accept? And I said, yes, I accept. And he says, yeah, but are you capable of even doing that? So I said, yes, and I refer you to my review of the book by an imam that I did, and I referred him to my blog, and he then spent some time. And now he has retracted. He says, yeah. I said to him, okay, then send me the book and I'll review it. And he says, well, it's available on Amazon or something. You can buy it. That's not the way that it works. If you want me to review your book, you need to send me your book for me to be able
that's
to
typically
review
how
it.
it's done, right? If you want somebody to review it, you send them a free copy or you get them to download it or whatever. But the other thing
Yeah.
you could do at this point, Stops, is just say, okay, well, if you've written such a stupendous book, put forward your best 3 arguments here. You can summarize them and we'll discuss them. Why go and read 500
Oh,
pages
that's an
where you've
idea.
probably got about 3 pages that is even worth putting forward, potentially, and we're being charitable there, and the rest will just be, a lot of fluff. So just put it forward. Just put your
So if
arguments
you
forward
have a
here.
book responding, exactly. Well, put
Presumably
down one. Just put down
all
one, yeah.
you know all the arguments that you're going to present along with it. So what is your claim and why do you believe it? Give us a shorthand version and we can go from there.
Yeah.
Why would you read
Because
a
this
500-page book?
Yeah, but this is the same guy who challenged me to a debate, and when I accepted, suddenly he ran away. So this is what he
We
does.
were both on there. I think we said it. Was it last week? I think we talked about it. Anyway, we were both on there.
No, we were on
both
his
listening.
show, and you challenged him.
Yeah. I put a lot of text in there. I think you showed that last week anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we just move
Yes.
on. I was waiting for somebody to say something, but I think that's low-hanging fruit.
This is where you expose your identity when you said there is no such thing as a Palestinian. You are a Jew. So you can't be a normal person looking at something because there is no such thing as a Palestinian. There is no Palestinian ethnicity. There's no Palestinian food, Palestinian clothing, Palestinian culture, Palestinian anything. They don't do anything else than anybody else in that region. So there's nothing distinctive about a Palestinian. There's no border. There's no set anything. I mean, Palestine is just a region that was never really, ever like mentioned or in connection with a country or something. So what are you talking about? So this whole concept of Palestine is just a nebulous term, which is, funny enough, covers the borders of Israel. So if Israel ceases to exist, they will call that Palestine, and then they're happy, and they can continue killing each other. We have a very nice opportunity here for people because we have competition. Because they are now opening their own show, which is answering atheists. Now, unfortunately, it's the same time as the Gin and Tonic show. Now, why would they do that? I mean, this show has been running for, a decade? And they are putting their show in exactly the same time, Friday evenings as we are? Can you believe it? So I don't know if somebody wants to pop in there just to let them know that they're cowards and that's what they're doing is showing exactly how weak they are. Okay, and the next is exactly what I was talking about earlier. This is, I don't know, this guy is really in a bad condition. Because a friend of this Ijaz guy says, well, he's not doing it to make you feel it if someone is going to come and shoot you. All right, so he's trying to apologize for him that he is doxing him, that he is telling everybody, look, this is his address, this is his wife, this is his kids, this is a photo of him, this is his telephone number, this is everything. And he's not doing this to do anything violent. And then he just interrupts and says, no, don't say that. No. So what is Ijaz suggesting here? Now, by the way, this screenshot is from, I forgot the channel name, Criticizing Islam or something, who picked up on this. So I just took it from him.
You might want to educate this particular fellow.
A decade and still only 30 people listening. Okay,
He's obviously not aware of the history of the Gin and Tonic and what's happened over time.
So what does that mean?
Oh, I think
because we're getting shut down all the time, and then people get.
Yeah, he doesn't know that, right? So he thinks that it's this particular channel has been running like this. The show has been going with different hosts over the years. You're the longest serving member from the beginning pretty much. But as you say, the channels have been shut down. There used to be hundreds of viewers, and when it gets shut down, that gets lost. And there's been times where the show hasn't run for a period of time, not very long, but there's been small pauses.
Interruptions,
so you have
yeah.
to build it up again.
Offer an alternative.
This is,
It's easy for somebody to put something in the notes on the side being critical, but I don't see such people offering an alternative or doing something any better. I mean, it's easy to say that with impunity, typing a text message side being critical, but there's nothing productive in making that statement.
I mean, we keep inviting Muslims on here, don't we? And we very rarely get them. Occasionally somebody will come on and they end up being low-hanging fruit, talking complete bollocks. But having, quote-unquote, educated Muslim on here is very difficult. They seem to not want to come on, but they'll go onto their own panels in their own echo chambers. Then they'll let somebody like Stops on, as long as he's controlled, but allow them out of their own box, to use the term that was on the screen earlier. And they want to stay in the box. Like, we don't want boxes. We're not interested in boxes, but presumably these well-educated, quote-unquote, knowledgeable Muslims seem to like their echo chamber, aka boxes, which is a shame.
well, the other thing what people don't realize is that if you have low numbers, that is not a reflection of the quality of what you're doing. So it's not quantity over quality. It's the other way around. And if I present quality stuff, then over time this is going to increase. The only thing is we've been doing it for so long, we are not here for the drama. But Muslims, they go and flock to the Muslim channels where there's a lot of drama. And this is why people and we're so proud of this. Who's this guy? Ali Dawah. That's why people go there, because there's a lot of drama there, and they feel like they're being reinforced in their belief. Or they flock to this Adam Saleh guy because he's creating a lot of
the other
drama
reason
about
Stops
himself.
is that they are simpletons speaking to simpletons and gullible
Exactly.
viewers.
Yeah.
So they're all at that sort of level. If you go any higher than that, they're just not interested, because now the brain has to engage and they don't understand what's being said. So it's much easier at the Ali Dawah, Alam Saleh level, which is very simplistic and profoundly mistaken, but it appeals to the intuition of the gullible and the ignorant.
It's based on emotion, not logic as well. And Islamic religion in itself is an emotional religion, not a logical one. Hence, following suit of their own prophet and God. What are you likely to expect from its adherents? You're going to expect emotion, not logic.
But listen, I actually do. I think he would be stupid enough, because he's so full of himself. He says, I've been doing this for many years and nobody has ever been able to shake my belief in the Koran that it is the perfect perfect book by a God. He really seems to believe that. So he would be so stupid to come here thinking, well, these are just atheists. They don't know what they're doing.
Thing is, so in the history of debates and talk shows and things like that, and discussions where you've had, say, a Christian or an atheist talking to a Muslim, has there ever been in the history of these discussions where the Muslim or the atheist have changed their mind and become the opposite of what they were the discussion they were talking to? For instance, has an atheist become a Muslim? Has the Muslim during the discussion then became an evolutionist or an atheist? Not that I recall. I find those discussions where they make these challenges just futile. A debate doesn't produce anything. Not in the history of. I think we've said this before, that when you listen to discussions and debates, people just go there to listen to their guy win. It's no different than a boxing match. You don't come away thinking, sometimes you might think, well, the opposing guy that won may have put on a better fight, but then you have something physical to see to justify that statement. Whereas with dialogue, it's more based on emotion, not logic, and Islam blinds and emotions blind the logic.
Yep. They are defending Islam. Now, number one, I don't know why you would need to defend Islam if it has so many, so convincing, so persuasive arguments. Why is it that Muslims are constantly saying we need to defend Islam? I don't understand that. Islam should not require defending. Islam is an ideology that is supposed to be so convincing that you don't need that. The other thing is, it doesn't make me mad that they are not doing this here on this platform. What I find strange and what I find telling is that they're doing it in the same time frame as we are here. This shows how weak they are. This shows how little confidence they have in themselves. They are not capable of addressing our questions. They are incapable of defending Islam. And this is the problem, that they realize that they can't do it, but they will not admit this. They will pretend like they are strong. They are the, we are the lions of whatever, Speaker's Corner and that. But all they actually do is just run away. They can only go and make some arguments when there are people there who don't know Islam, who are not aware of the tactics used by Muslims. And that is why they will not come here, because they know that they're going to be shown the answers. Yeah. Come on, why don't you go and join them now? So we
Let's move
abort
on,
now
stops.
the
Otherwise
genital-
we
Yeah,
stops.
okay, this is
Yeah,
true.
let's move
This is- yeah, all right. Now, this guy's going to crack. This guy is the typical guy who's going to go and join ISIS. He says, you're useful to your master Satan, but you know that already. You're not in a relationship, right? You can't support yourself. So who do you support? You're confused, looking for validation, don't have a clue about meaningful human existence. You merely breathe each day and waste yourself trying to convince yourself that you're a man, living your lie. You're that kind that rapes your own children, kills innocent people out of hate, steals by deception and avarice. You abuse women, you're racist and alone, choking on your own vehemence and agony, all because you don't fit in, can't find a niche. Under a rock is your home. Please stay right there. You're out of your depth on land with us beautiful people under God's sky, enjoying humanity and all we share.
Yeah, rather excrement type of tirade. Nothing of interest
Wow. Now the thing is, he's done a couple of these, and I think these are the people that I worry about, because he hates people who don't believe what he believes so much, especially if they go and show him that what he believes is actually nonsense. And this is why he hates me so much, that he writes things like that. And these are the kind of people that I worry, because these are the kind of people that you will then find in
Well, we can only
ISIS.
hope
So-
that with the internet and, hopefully rationality and so forth spreading, that people like that will be sort of weeded out of the gene pool. But, maybe they won't, but, we can always hope that evolution takes its course. You never know.
Oh, boy. Okay. So that was the Krazy Komments. Let's quickly run through some Quran. I need to go here. There we go. Is it big? Oh, it should be bigger. I can make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah, that sounds good. This is Surah 7, right?
How's that? Yeah, that should
That's
be
Surah
okay.
7?
This is chapter 7,
Yeah.
and it's sentences 141 to 161. And I did this because I was blocked from Facebook for a day, so I had time to quickly do this. Okay, we were still with the Jews, and after the crossing the sea and all that, Moses told them this and this and this. So it carries on along these lines. So we saved you from Pharaoh, which was a test. Now, what I'm doing, in case I need to explain this, I'm taking the Quran and I'm going to chapter 7. I go and open sentence number 141. I look what it says. I go and read various translations. Then I go to the root and I see what the root is all about. And I read some tafsirs to get the gist of the message that this is intended to project. And then I take a condensed version of this. So this could be a sentence which is quite short. Sometimes it's a sentence which runs like over 3-4 lines, and I'm just condensing it down to a couple of words to leave out all the jibber jabber. So 141 says, we saved you from Pharaoh, which was a test. Now it shows what a brutal God this is, because if he alleges that there are like 500,000 people who are being abused by this king in Egypt, and they are being kept as slaves with families and everything. And all this is for these people is just a test. Now, why he would go and test the Jews, this is beyond me. But he says, I am the God of everybody, so I took the Jews and I tested you. What? But he knew what was going to happen. So where's the test? Is he testing the people to see how they react? We don't know. So this is quite weird. So Moses got 30 nights plus 10 makes 40. Really, that's what it says in the Quran. You know, at least, I mean, he can't add 2/3 and a third, but he can add 30 plus 10. Isn't that wonderful? And then after he gets 40, he told his brother Aaron to take charge. What Moses got 30 nights for, or of, or what? No, we're not told. He just got 30 nights plus 10 makes 40. He says this makes 40. But we don't know what this is all about. So this is rather cryptic. Now, it's only when you read the explanations that this is his appointment, that he got a slot with God. So he gets 30 nights and 30 days plus 10, so 40. And while he was gone for his meeting with God, he told his brother Aaron to take charge. But we don't get told this here. So Moses talked to God, who crumbled a mountain instead of revealing itself. Okay. So he told Moses to run along. And then in 146 says, no, 45 says, we gave Moses all, okay, every single, all rules on tablets. So this is not just 1 or 10 or 20 or 50, but all the rules on tablets. I will turn the arrogant away from our signs. Why? The arrogant ones are exactly the ones who need the signs in order to do what you want them to do, you silly thing. And then he says, do they expect a reward? Well, yeah, of course they do. That's the whole point, isn't it? So while Moses was gone, his people made a calf as an idol. Okay, well, what else should they do? They were bored. And then they realized it was wrong and asked for forgiveness. And then Aaron says he was forced to let them do it because Moses got angry with him. And so Aaron then asked for forgiveness. And then God will be cross and will punish those who, that's where it ends. We don't know. The Quran simply stops halfway in the sentence. And then people have to open brackets and put in there what they think should be there. But the Quran itself stops halfway through the sentence. And just will punish those who dumb.
Which surah is that stops?
152. So this is really weird how the Quran just leaves out entire words and leaves it up to the people to come up with the completion. So indeed, those who took the calf for worship, well, took the calf, all right, this you can still get, will obtain anger from the Lord and humiliation in the life of this world. And thus we recompense the inventors of and you can go to the root as well. The root also, it just stops in the middle of the sentence. Thus do we recompense those who invent nothing.
Yeah, you've got to put a word in there, right?
It just stops. The ones who invent stop. And you are telling me that Muslims understand the Quran? You are telling me that a normal Muslim will read this book and say, okay, is this what is happening? Come on, this shows how badly written this is. And it shows this cannot have been written by a God and was then guarded, protected and everything. No way. This is silly. God will be cross and will punish those who... Okay, tell me what? You need to make it up. It's humans who need to complete the book. It's humans who need to actually make the book into what it is today. And I'll give you a quick summary of this
This
just now.
particular qiraat of the book, right?
This what?
This particular qiraat of the book.
Well, let me quickly insert this. There's a video by Dr. J. Smith where he goes and takes his research, and combines it with the research of a Dr. Nasser, Mr. Shadi Nasser. He has done some deep dive into the old manuscripts, and he has found, and do I have this as a picture? No, I don't have it ready as a picture. I need to work on this because this is such a brilliant presentation, but it's very long. He shows all the different versions of the Quran. Now, the Quran says that it was revealed in pure Arabic. And then somebody like Hijab, who really doesn't understand much, comes along and says, well, you have all these different qira'ats, and he brings 2 or 3, I don't know how many, 7, and they're all different. And he says, well, these are all dialects. So the Quran was revealed in 7 dialects, but the Quran says it was revealed in pure Arabic. So that doesn't make sense. Then what happens if you go and look? Who actually chose these 7? Well, it wasn't Muhammad, because it was only chosen 200 years later. And then you have people who are the actual readers, reciters, and then they taught other people. And in the end, J. Smith shows this, how you go from the 7 to the 10 to the 21, and suddenly you have 30 absolutely different versions of the Quran within the first 300 years. Then you go a little bit later and he goes up to 1400, and suddenly you have something like 700 different versions of the Quran, because everybody adds, subtracts, takes a little bit, changes a little bit. And this is the interesting part, he explains how the Hafs version that we are using here today, because this is what we are reading here, is the Hafs version as recited by Asim. This was canonized in 1918 and then first published in 1924 in Cairo. And then it was actually only declared to be the official Quran in 1983 or 1985. 85, I think. So the Quran is only 35 years old. So I'm older than the Quran. And yet Muslims will come to me and say it has never been changed in the last 1400 years. And yet we have thousands and thousands of differences. And this is something that has been demonstrated. Okay, these are not theoretical. This is demonstrated. So the qira'at that people are talking about, or the haruf, ask a Muslim, ask anyone, ask any scholar, what is the difference between qira'at and haruf? They will start waffling. They don't really know. And then you say, well, give me the differences and give me an example in the Quran. Poof, totally gone. This is such a vast area, and you really have to read a lot of things before you can get any kind of sense into this. And this is why I'm immensely grateful to people like Dr. Shadi Nasser and to Dr. J. Smith, who did all this work. And then people like Dr. Dan Brubaker, who come up with all these old manuscripts to show all the variants in the different time zones and that. Brilliant stuff. So if anybody has the time, just go go look for, I think it's called Funder Films, Pfander, and watch this video. This is it's a long one, all right, but it's really amazingly well done. So this covers the qira'at and all that. So if you hear somebody say, yeah, but there's different qira'ats, well, just ask him. Okay, where do they come from? Who decided which are the 7? And you will see there's crickets. There's absolutely nothing that they can say. So this explains the different versions, and I'm sure there are qira'at who will have the word in there. God will be cross and will punish those who blah, blah, blah. So the people must have some idea. And this is exactly what happens. They know of the other Qurans, and then they know what it should be. And this is why they manage to put words in there, those who transgress or those who create mischief or whatever, because they know the other versions. So 153 says, if you repent, it's a merciful God. Of course, yes. 154 says Moses calmed down and used the tablets. And they're still using them today, I suppose. So then, and this is another, Moses chose 70 men. And when the earthquake shook them, said, God, you could have killed us. Will you? I don't know what these 70 men are. I don't know what they're for. I don't know what the aim is. I don't know what the message is. I don't know how this is giving a Muslim guidance, reading that Moses chose 70 men. Because there's no reason why this Moses should have chosen 70 men. Then in 156 says, no, you're good to go if you're afraid of me. And you pay an obligatory tax, which is the zakat, which is not, I don't know, people always call it charity and that. No, it's not. It's not charity if you're obliged to pay it, because then it's a tax. And, of course, you're good to go only if you believe that I exist. Seems to be very important for this God. Then 157 says, people who follow the messenger who was mentioned in the Torah and the Gospel, who allows and prohibits, this is Muhammad, who allows and prohibits, who unloads the burden and removes the shackles, they will be successful. And some of these actually make the claim that Deuteronomy 18:15-9 and John 14:15-16 and 16:13 actually mention Muhammad. No, thunder, thunder, you don't need to explode. That is bullshit. Okay, and I think you've explained it last week already. You've explained it several times why this is bullshit. Do you want to let go with the sentence anyway?
No, I'm going to let you carry on, because I read through this week's Quran reading, and to be honest, I just find it a mindless repetition or an add-on from last week. I've got nothing to add on.
So we don't need to. Okay, cool. So 158 says, I am the messenger for everyone. Well, no, you're not. You're dead. You've never existed in the first place. So if this Muhammad existed, he existed in the 7th century. Well, 6th and 7th century. But he's not around now. So I insist, because we saw in 3 or 4 weeks ago, that I am only going to be judged and I can only be punished if I have my messenger. So I insist I want my messenger. This is like in law, you are entitled to your legal representation, to your lawyer, solicitor, whatever. So you can insist and say, well, I'm not going to tell anybody anything unless I have a lawyer present. Well, I insist I want my messenger. Otherwise, you cannot judge me. You can't do anything to me. You can't just say Muhammad is the messenger for everyone. He's dead. So this is quite funny. Believe in God and him. You have to believe in him. Okay? Both the team, him, and follow him. Follow him who? Follow God or follow Muhammad? Why is it only him? Why not follow them? Why not believe in God and him and follow them? No, it's him. I wonder who him is. Quran doesn't tell you. Followers of Moses guide with trust and justice. Really. So followers of Moses guide others using truth and justice. Now what good is that? What good is that to a Muslim? What kind of guidance does a Muslim have if he says some followers of Moses guide with truth and justice? Well, if they did, then you can't say that they didn't have the right knowledge. You can't say that the Torah and everybody was corrupted and that Ezra is the son of a god if they use truth and justice to guide the people. Because that means it was okay.
Yeah, well, they're just going to claim that other parts are corrupted, right? Not the correct parts. In other words, whatever confirms the Quran isn't corrupted, and whatever contradicts it is corrupted. Well, that's very convenient.
It isn't it? Yeah. So Moses made 12 springs, and they got manna and birds, quails. Now the 12 springs, I think I've already mentioned that several times. This doesn't make sense because if you really have those kind of numbers, which I worked out to be 2.3 million, I think, 12 springs is not going to be enough because you're going to wait exactly 1 year before the last one gets to drink something. So not drinking for 1 year is not the healthiest of things. So this whole thing doesn't make sense. So they went into a town and ate what they wanted. That's cool. That's nice. Isn't that cool that God allows the people just go in anywhere and eat what you want? I mean, 2.5 million people go and just sort of descend like the locusts into a town and eat what they want. This is so funny. It's so stupid.
I guess they're going to have to appeal to a miracle, right? Because it wouldn't happen through a natural process. There wouldn't be enough food or whatever, as you point out. So a Muslim presumably is going to claim that, hey, well, you're reading that literally, right? We hear that regularly now, right? You can't read this. And we heard that from a particular person who is claiming not to be a Muslim but wants to ingratiate himself with Muslims. Hey, the way to read these books is with faith. Well, how's that useful? Because faith, anybody can believe anything on faith, so that doesn't get you towards something that's true. Because somebody can say, I have faith, okay, but if you have a belief, you normally justify it with the reasons. I'm cool with that. But if you're going to read it with faith, and presumably faith and belief are a different thing, what's the point of doing that? If you cannot ascertain whether something's true, then somebody else can say, well, I believe on faith that there's the 10 dimensions, and the 10th dimension is the totality of reality, and it's not teleological. And somebody says, why do you believe that? And you say, well, I believe it on faith. It's a conversation ender, right? When somebody says that, how do you respond to that? You could point out to them that anybody could make that claim, but that's not going to necessarily change somebody's mind. On with the show stops.
Okay. Well, I have for you a quick video. So we're going to go now to the segment Dawah in Action. And this is something that is supposed to persuade Muslims that what they believe is absolutely correct. And this is about the messenger, Muhammad, and the claims around it.
This is the most unbelievable. I mean, the greatest event. This will be the greatest celestial event since the creation of the universe, and nobody has witnessed this. If you think about the Arabian Peninsula, you'd have had Romans, you'd have had Zoroastrians, the Jews, and the Christians. I don't know how far the moon will have been seen, but sure all the way to India, and Africa as well. And nobody has recorded the event. Nobody has written it down. No one makes mention of it. It'd be great. So you asked the question, what was the point of Allah doing this if no one's considered to record it?
I guess we can ask the question, what would a Muslim say in this case, right? We can try and come up with ideas or what they would say. So one sort of not particularly good idea that a Muslim could say is, hey, you know what? He did split the moon, but again, this was a miracle event, and Allah in his wisdom only let the believers see the moon was split and nobody else. To everybody else it looked like it wasn't split, therefore you can't deny that the moon was split.
Right.
It goes even worse. You know that there are Muslims who are actually saying it was intended for the people who challenged him, so only the people who challenged him could see that it's spilt into. Nobody else could.
Yeah. I'm just speculating that's an answer. Go on, Thunder.
The other thing is that I hear that it was actually because what Thunder said is that it wasn't seen in India. Well, somebody in India actually mentioned this.
That's a fake story. It's fake news. I
know.
remember reading that as well.
Yeah.
The thing is, Rob just mentioned about performing the miracle for people who are the believers. The thing is, you see, in history, if you were going to go by the logic, then all those other miracles that happened in previous times were witnessed by non-believers as well as believers. So that doesn't work because it's not consistent.
Yeah, that's true, Thunderous, but then a Muslim can say, well, this particular one wasn't meant for the non-believers, right? So they could just say, well, it was only meant for the believers, so even if other miracles were for non-believers, this one wasn't. I mean, there's no evidence of this in the Koran or anywhere else, right? So this, if again, a straightforward reading suggests that if this miracle happened, then non-believers should see it. And if that wasn't the case, the Koran would have, again, if it was a clear, concise and complete book, would make it clear that it was only for the believers, which means the rest of us, it's a trivial unfalsifiable claim and we can just move on, because anybody could say that. I can say, hey, I've got an invisible dragon outside that only I can see. It's invisible to everybody else. You can't disprove it. It's a trivial point, and anybody can make that claim, right?
Yeah.
But then it kind of like makes a mockery of the miracle, then, doesn't it? That the whole point. I mean, we're not talking as something where it's behind closed doors, where Muhammad is doing something. We're talking about the single largest object that's near to our planet that would have had the center of our solar system reflecting off this. And you're saying that Allah only made the believers see this. So what the fuck was everybody else doing during this period of time? They were sitting around campfires, they're out at night. Only Muslims saw this, and non-Muslims didn't see this.
Yeah, I mean, a Muslim will come back and say, well, hey, Allah's all powerful, right? It's possible that he could have blinded the non-believers into seeing what they originally saw. But
that would be a miracle as well. Allah blinded how many millions or how many hundreds of thousands of people is a miracle in itself, that he blinded them not to see this, and Allah doesn't mention that miracle that coincides with this miracle.
Yeah, it's just, if they go down that route, it's an unfalsifiable claim. We've got no way to establish whether this is true, and anybody else can make the same claim. So, but I'm just thinking, what could a Muslim possibly say here?
It was probably cloudy. It was cloudy at night, and there was a hole in the clouds, and that hole in the clouds was the only avenue for anybody to see the moon directly. That's
no. They specified one half went and behind the mountain, the other half didn't.
Oh, is that in the Quran?
Not in the Quran, no.
Oh, okay.
In the Quran, it just says it's split in two.
Yeah.
And Zakir Naik has commented on this. I remember him commenting saying that he puts it in very sort of like allegedly, but kind of hinting that it's there, about the fissure on the moon, that the moon was split.
Yeah. Ah, there we go. Okay, so in this particular case, he's claiming that the unbelievers did see it. I was just wondering how a Muslim could possibly respond to this. But if the claim is that the unbelievers did see it, then you're quite right. In fact, if everybody in the world saw it, if it stayed up for some time, presumably longer than one day, then almost anybody around the world would have seen it at some point. And they would have made note of this amazing feat, and it would have affected the oceans and gravity and all the rest of it. So there would have been effects on the earth in any case if that happened again, unless you're going to claim that the earth was contained and in a miracle. So if you're going to try and do that, you then have to invoke another miracle to protect your first miracle, and so that sort of absurd chain continues.
Yeah, you have an imbalance, a gravitational imbalance. I mean, come on, the consequences are quite grave. So anyway, number 2.
Well, didn't he go to the temple? Didn't he say he saw the temple, but the temple had been destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE? So that's a load of rubbish.
The thing is that it says that he flew to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, where they don't specify where it is. They never specify. I mean, Jerusalem is not mentioned in the entire Quran. And then he landed there, tied it outside, and went in to pray. Now, a lot of Muslims are saying, well, any place that you can, pray in is called a masjid. So it could be also an area. But the language used does not imply an area, but it implies a building.
I'm of the opinion that he's trying to, because I think it's in the Hadith where it's the old Jewish temple, which was this is where he doesn't know what's going on. He thinks the temple's still there. He's referring to that because by going to that location, he's trying to religiousize, if you like, his journey by going to Jerusalem, and therefore, because when he goes upstairs to heaven, he's speaking to Jewish prophets. So he's got to make the parallel and the Jewish connection there.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that, well, obviously in the story, it doesn't say when this happens. but it must have been somewhere around 622. The problem is, this was only built 100 years later. So the people who made the story up placed it into a time that was 100 years earlier, thinking that because it's 100 years earlier, people cannot, check anything anymore, so they can make up whatever they want, and people can't verify this. So they made a mistake with some things because we can't check when it was built, and they made a mistake. So it's just a true and honest mistake, and that's it. But Muslims will not accept this, of course, because they will find all sorts of excuses not to see it like that, to not have any kind of mistake in there. I mean, the whole story this is the longest hadith in the whole collection, right? So there's a lot of detail in there, and as Thunder says, he speaks to the Jewish prophets, and he goes to this, on the second floor he goes and meets Jesus, on the third this, on the fourth this, and then finally he speaks to Moses and Abraham and all that. And it's Moses, all right, the Jew, Moses, who tells him, no, go back, talk to him again, I'm sure you can haggle with him. So he goes from 50 to 40 to 30 to 20 to 10. And then Moses says, well, now you're down to 5. This you can give to people. So go back to your people and tell them they have to pray 5 times a day. So Moses decides, the Jew decides, how many times Muslims have to pray. So this is great.
Which is if you like, a bastardization of the biblical accounts where Abraham's talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, and if there are 50 righteous, 40 righteous, and he gets down to 5 righteous people. So he's taken that. And interestingly, I was listening to a talk by Yasser Qadi, who was saying that before he received this or had the night journey and got the order from 50 down to 5, Muhammad was actually praying 50 prayers. But he was doing it without anybody noticing.
How do you do that?
It's in his talk about the ascension to heaven. It's in his talk about the ascension to heaven, because he's asking the audience, well, how many rak'ah for this prayer? How many rak'ah? And then they get to about 52, if like whatever it is, postures and whatnot that he has to do. So it's on Yasser Qadi's channel, Epic Masjid.
Okay, I'm lazy, but anybody can go and take 24 hours, multiplied by 60, find out how many minutes, divide that by 50, or subtract 8 hours for sleep, and then see what you're left with, and then see how many prayers you manage.
It's that thing about, it's when you count the sleep as well.
Isn't that nice? You see, this is the proof. This is the proofs. How many? No, this is the third proof.
This is a miracle, right?
That Muhammad was a true prophet because a tree shed tears for him, like the donkey that committed suicide for him.
But the thing is, Yasser Qadi, going back to Yasser Qadi again, Yasser Qadi told this story of when Muhammad gave a khutbah and the timbers he was standing on also were crying. The timbers, the pieces of wood. Yasser Qadi says this.
Well, there's the story where he says he had a slave, one of his slaves, built a pulpit for him. And the tree that he was normally leaning against was so sad that he was no longer leaning against it, but was standing on the pulpit, that he put his hand on the tree. This is what made the tree happy, so it shed a tear for him. And this is the proofs. And the third evidence is that this is a true prophet, because this has never happened to anybody else, only to Muhammad, which is proofs that this is a true
Yeah, and I mean,
true
all you have
prophet.
to do, of course, is deconstruct a little bit. How do they know it was a tear? How do they know it wasn't some liquid that came about? And how exactly does a tree shed a tear? And of course, nobody's going to be able to tell you. Presumably, they're just going to say it's a miracle. Well, how do you know it's a miracle? How do we determine a miracle from not a miracle? And particularly in this case, how do we know that a tree shed a tear and that presumably it was a miraculous tear as opposed to a natural tear, whatever that might mean? How do you establish that? Right, so if you ask a few questions to dig under the surface of these sort of very vacuous claims that might sound good to the gullible ear, you just see that, there's no answer to this. It's a case of you've got to have faith that this happened.
And the thing is, it's invoking the thoughts that the tree has the ability to hear rather. So you think about the process and the biology required to hear frequency that's traveling on airwaves. And then you have to have a consciousness to understand language and to have free will as well, to have the language understood and then to react to it emotionally. The logistics for all of this are pathetic.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't even go that far, though, Thunderous, because they would presumably say that this is a miracle, so none of that needs to take place. Somehow God made the tree weep. But okay, how do we establish that particular event, without all of the natural occurrences that you talked about, even if it was a miracle, how do we establish that it was in fact a miracle and it wasn't somehow liquid through a natural process? How can you do that? You can't.
But the thing is, you see, but the whole point of them saying it shed a tear evokes an emotional reaction. I hear what you're saying by that, but they're implying something completely different. And I don't quite understand, why would Allah make the tree cry then? So it's against his will. So it's against the tree's will. So Allah's forcing the tree to do something that's against the tree's will, assuming that the tree had free will in the first place.
I don't think anybody will think that a tree has any sort of free will anyway. It just does what biology does, and Allah can change the biology to make it manifest this tear as a sign to mankind or to show that Muhammad was a wonderful guy or whatever the case is. But I think, again, if that's the best he can do, it's very underwhelming at best, because there's no way to tell the difference. If there was suddenly a fireball that appeared or some sort of event that could not be explained through natural processes, that would be more impressive. But this is totally mundane at the best and can't be proven or disproven.
The thing is that the Quran says that everything prostrates to Allah. So the whole universe has conscience. And it doesn't matter whether you're a rock or a tree or whatever, you prostrate towards Allah. You have the consciousness to realize who this Allah is and what this God actually is. So they are just making, like the rock that ran away with Moses' clothes. You have a lot of these things that you see where inanimate objects are suddenly organic and able to interact with nature, which of course normally they don't. So there's a lot of these things. Yeah, Facebook user, you want to prove the metaphors. Trees are sometimes metaphors for people. No, where did the comments go? I just saw some comments here from Facebook and suddenly they're gone.
Oh, no, they're there. I can see them. You just scroll down a bit.
So you want to feel the feelings of a tree. Exactly. You can't.
Yeah, this is a, I think at least some Muslims, if not more, are going to say, no, this is all metaphorical. Well, how do you establish what is metaphorical and what not? I listened the other day, Harris Sultan had a guy called John somebody, I didn't get his last name, who left Islam, and he was making the avid case that no, he was even challenging. He came on as a guest for Harris Sultan. You can go and look at it. I'll actually bring you up the link. But he actually came on as a guest, but then they ended up challenging each other in a sense, because he was of the view, no, this, your view, Harris Sultan, is ridiculous, or it's not accepted, it wasn't accepted even back in the Sahaba days, etc., etc. They all apparently knew or believed, or whatever the case is, that most of the stuff is metaphorical. And so anybody who's taking it literally, you're out of accord with what most Muslims believe, and even what the Sahaba themselves believe. That was his position, and presumably other Muslims would say the same, right?
And the
But if
evidence
that's what they're going to
so.
say, then
Yes.
obviously they can't claim that this is a miracle. So you either you claim it's a miracle and it's literal, or you claim that it's metaphorical, in which case it's not an actual miracle. It's something that is analogous with, or is trying to send you a message.
It stands for
There's
something,
a deeper
exactly.
meaning. Yeah. So
Yeah.
then you got to go either literal equals miracle, or metaphorical.
Or the
but
other
then
way,
no-
exactly.
Yeah, no miracle, right?
How do you explain the Big Bang? Well, we all know it was a bee. This has been established. We've known this for 200 years. Come on, didn't you get the memo? It was a bee. We all know it was a bee. I don't know why you're still asking this question. Quite funny. Okay. But if you want to propose something different, you're welcome to do so. You're welcome to join. No problem. The Prophet would often lean upon a tree and deliver sermons. This is the story. Okay, maybe I should let the whole thing. Okay, I'm sorry.
Totally.
I've stole the thunder here. because I didn't know. Okay, water flowed from his hands. Let me first get. There seems to be. They always bring two things on the day of Hudama treat. If you had no water to drink, would you accept a small pot of water? He then placed his hand into the pot and water began to flow from his fingers. Okay, now this is finished. So this is now the complete miracle. He placed his hand into the pot and water began to flow. Is this like Jesus made wine or something?
Water into wine.
If you read the Quran with understanding and willingness to learn the book, then the understanding becomes clear. Try it, Rob. You might be enlightened. Okay, it's a pity you're only joining now. We just read the Quran. And I had a question, and where were you when I needed you? Because I have a question to somebody who has read the Quran. I don't know, have you read the Quran with understanding, or are you a stupid idiot? I don't know. I don't know what you are. If you read the Quran with understanding, maybe you can answer the question.
We often get this sort of claim. It's an unfalsifiable claim. The implication is that if you read it and you start to believe it, then you've got understanding. And if you don't, then you either are, quote unquote, not willing, or you're not open, or whatever the case is. This is just a vacuous claim. Anybody could say that. I could say to this particular Muslim, hey, if you looked at the world with understanding and willingness to learn, you'd see that it's a natural process. And if you still think there's a God, well, then you're not understanding, or you're unwilling. See, anybody can play that game. It's completely a vacuous statement.
Probably got that from the Mormons, like they borrow most of their dialogue.
Okay, so we have a claim here that somebody put his hand in water and water began to flow from his hand. Well, if you put your hand in water, then water is going to come dripping off your hand.
Especially if something's full, right? It's going to overflow.
I'm surprised it didn't stick out his tongue for other people to stuck on his tongue if they were that person.
Everyone drank and made ablution from that water that day. Super. He fed 300 people with food that was prepared for two. That sounds very awfully familiar. Following the Prophet's marriage to Zainab bin Jahsh, he received food from Salam, enough for two. He then told Anas bin Malik to gather his companions. After some time, they were about 300 in number. The Prophet then fed all the guests until they were full. Until they were full. All 300. I've heard that somewhere before, that there was a prophet who did something that suddenly he was feeding a lot of people. I wonder
Jesus,
where they get this from.
Yeah. How do you establish that he fed these 300 people? I mean, this is just a claim, right? How do we establish that?
Rob, he's speaking to you only. He doesn't speak to me. You need to read this.
If you read it and study it, which is not easy. Oh, really? Well, that's not what the book says, but okay, you can contradict the book if you like. And clearly you have not read it with understanding, because you've asked me about inheritance laws, a bit confused. Yes, I've asked you about inheritance laws, and it's irrefutable. That torpedoes your Quran. That is a nuclear weapon against your Quran. It's irrefutable. The inheritance laws show us this book has an error, at least one error, if not many, many more, and it's irrefutable. Therefore, you should not believe that it came from a God. End of story. And I will challenge every Muslim, 1.7 billion of them, to answer this question, which they can't do. So we're done with that, right? People, most Muslims can't do fractions anyway, but those that can, they haven't got an answer to this. They're dead in the water.
And they never go and address them. They will always say, well, there is no error. And you say, well, then show me the error. The best I've had was Maverick, who said, well, the grammar is wrong. And then we showed him that the grammar is right. Okay, I answered you. You did not reply. Well,
what was your answer? Type it in the chat, or come on here. Type in the chat what your answer was to the inheritance error. 411 and 412, if you add them together, you get more than 100%, or greater than 1 if you're doing fractions, which is an impossibility. Even God can't do impossible things. And so just give us your answer. Let's see if it makes sense.
Okay, and the miracle claim here is that you could feed 300 people with just a loaf of bread or something. Okay, great. I mean, this is wonderful. The problem is, why isn't then this happening today? Where is Muhammad today? Where this is not for a wedding, but people are dying because they don't have food. This is not a festival here. We are like, it's a matter of life and death, and there is nobody to feed them.
Yeah, but stops. That's too easy for them to answer. I don't think that's a strong critique for a gullible person, right? an easy answer that a Muslim come back with, that was a special occurrence and there was a special reason. Allah knows best, and there's a reason. Everybody's going through a test today, and they can sidestep that very easily. Not substantially, but easy enough for people not to take it too seriously.
Yeah, but then it's not a merciful God, is it?
Well, that they claim it's a test. Again, we can go into that as a separate point. I just think
Killing
that's
children.
just not strong enough.
Killing children is a test?
They're going to claim he's not directly killing them, obviously. But that's a separate thing, right? We can talk about that
Okay,
separately.
but
I just think it's easy for them to sidestep, not with a good substantial answer, but with just sort of saying, well, it was a one-off event. God is not doing miracles all the time, and that's it. Right? Any Muslim who hears that, who's full into the thing, who's not thinking critically, will just accept that and move on, right? They think you've been refuted.
Yeah, this is true. Okay, evidences the 6. He came with the Koran, a book like no other. What is that? Yeah, but how is that?
Let it finish, stops, and then we'll deal with it.
It is undisputed that the Holy Quran is the greatest miracle. It is undisputed?
With who?
Evident from its historical precision, linguistic perfection, and the many prophecies it accurately foretold. Oh, goodness.
Let him finish the claim, and then we can just deal with it quickly.
Isn't this the end? There's a full stop here.
Oh, I don't know. Is it?
The Quran, in fact, presents a challenge to humanity to produce something like it. A challenge which this day has remained uncontested.
Wow. Okay, stop there, stops. How many errors and claims, unsubstantiated claims, can you put in 3 or 4 sentences? I'll give a few, and then I'm sure you can add to it as well. Well, firstly, it's not undisputed. People had disputed even at Muhammad's time, so that's not the case. The claim that...
Well, let's go through them one by one. Because it starts, the inconsistency starts right in the beginning. Because it says here, he came with the Quran, a book like no other. How is that a miracle performed by Muhammad?
He didn't even have a book, did he? It was just a recitation. A recitation isn't a book.
It wasn't even complete.
It was not by him.
Yeah.
All he's doing, he's a parrot. How is it a miracle if a parrot says, Allahu Akbar? There's a parrot in Arabia who's doing exactly that.
Well, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, there's no other book like that, right? Yeah. Is that a miracle?
Yes.
So please obviously what they're going to say here, yeah, but I think they're going to try and substantiate it with the bits after this, right? So this first part is a mundane claim. I mean, this is just the main claim, but it's a mundane claim unless you can back it up. Because other books, virtually there's no other book like any other book. Each book is unique unless you copy it, right?
Okay, well, I'm just trying to see if I can find where would
Facebook user, I'm still waiting for you to give us your answer to the inheritance, right? Okay, but let's move on to the stops because there's so many wrong things about this claim.
I just want to quickly take a look if I can find immediately.
And Facebook user, while he's doing that, what is your criteria for something like it? And who established that, and why should I accept that? I'll wait for you to answer those. Good luck with that.
And the thing is, I have done the surah like it so many times. I've done so many sentences. Like I said, there's a whole webpage, suralikeit.com, which has all these things. So there's now. Then we have the, and I was just looking for that and I can't find it. There's a surah 115 now, which is called the COVID-19, which is exactly like the Quran. And so this is quite funny. Anyway, he came with the Quran, a book like no other. Well, number one, every book is like no other, as Rob has just pointed out. He came with the Quran. No, he didn't. It was his God. It was Gabriel. It was somebody who came with the Quran, and Muhammad just parroted it. So there's no big deal. This is nothing for a prophet. It is undisputed. Okay, sorry, Rob, you carry on.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's undisputed. I mean, where's the claim, or how do you substantiate that it's undisputed? By whom is it undisputed? His gullible followers or other people? Other people at the time, many people disputed it at the time. They thought he was a lunatic and so forth. People wanted to kill him and all the rest of it. So that's not true either. And the
and
greatest miracle, how do you establish the greatest miracle? What is it that makes one miracle better than the other, and why should we accept that? Again, Facebook user, I'll wait for you to respond in any. Hey, I'm going to set the bar very low. Just make it coherent. Don't even worry about substantial. You need to get over the coherent bar at this stage, which you should do trivially, easily, but then give us something substantial.
the thing is, as well, if you add on to that, the people who did challenge him got executed for challenging him. So people challenging him, they lost their lives.
Yeah. Evident
Okay,
from its historical precision, linguistic perfection, and the many prophecies it accurately foretold. Okay, so historical precision. What do you consider historically? We've read the Quran, we're reading it again now. What do you consider precision? Obviously, we have a very, very different bar for what precision is. Any claim you want to bring up the most precise claim you will in the Quran, and we can improve upon it and make it more precise. Does that mean that we are better than your God? What do you consider precision, and why should we accept that standard? We did that years ago as well. I did it with one random verse, and I just added a few words that made it far more precise. And I had a Muslim on the show. He had to accept that mine wasn't, which was, of course, completely incoherent. But that's what he had to do. Well, that's why you're stuck with this book. That when you show that it can be more precise, then you get a Muslim saying, no, that's not more precise. When any human being that has a small level of critical thinking can see it's more precise. And the prophecies, go on.
I was just because it talks about historical precision. So for me, when I read that, I'm looking at the stops is probably sniggering there, knowing where I'm going to go with this.
Yep.
When it talks historical precision, from my perspective, I'm always looking at it from the perspective: does it match with secular history? So when I look at the Quran and I look at secular history, I don't see them calibrated, not even in the slightest.
Not
And
anything,
yeah,
exactly.
there's the only things it touches on are what's already mentioned in other books. Okay, so that's not historical precision. That's a repeat at best when it's not bastardizing the story in the first place. And second of all, I mean, when it touches on history, when it mentions something, yes, Dul Qarnayn and a copper covered or brass covered iron wall, or Solomon and Hoopiebird and things like that, or even the death of Jesus for that, we do not find it, if you like, calibrated with the history that we know is written down and accepted.
Now, there's nothing historical there. And the other thing is there are anachronisms. There are things mentioned in the Quran which don't fit into the era that they are being associated with. So it's actually exactly the opposite of historical precision. Then the linguistic perfection, well, there are thousands of grammar mistakes. I've shown a couple which are very easy to demonstrate. And then the prophecies, we know there is not a single prophecy, not one prophecy in the entire Quran. Never mind accurately, not even vaguely.
On the point of prophecy, though, what I find peculiar about what they've just done there is the Quran is supposed to be in heaven beside Allah, created or uncreated. So prophecy actually belongs to Allah. So why is all the other stuff promoted Muhammad, and then Allah gets something sort of like towards the tail end? Have you noticed that?
And wrong as well, yeah.
And wrong. So surely Allah would have got the more mention or the bigger mentions as opposed to Muhammad. But Muhammad is getting more mentioned in all of this than Allah.
Yeah.
Hang on, stop some moments. Just pause for a sec. Because I can't text to this. This is coming from the Facebook free speech group, the Speakers Corner free speech group, and StreamYard won't let me message into a group. So yes, this is the surah. That's exactly it. If you go and actually read the verse and do basic mathematics, buddy, you'll see that it adds up to more than one or greater than 100%, which is impossible.
3 girls, 2/3. No, not mum and dad 1/6. You need to read the Quran. You seem to have a comprehension problem. You need to read the Quran what it says.
Yeah.
My
No, and there's no remaining 1/24th. That's not what's in the Quran either. So
no, he's forgetting the 6th. He's just somehow forgetting the 6th, and this is like
Yeah.
deception.
He obviously doesn't understand what he's reading. And this is a Muslim who claims to read it and understand the Quran, right? And we're non-Muslims and we understand the verse better than he does. But of course he has to say something like this because in his mind this is how he can reconcile this. That's not what the Quran says. Good luck. Thanks for playing that. All right, let's carry on.
Idiot. Okay, then. Okay, I think should we go through this again? Something like it. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is.
How could this be a challenge? How is this proof? How is this the indication that a person is a prophet who says,
irony.
"Well, exactly. Well, if you doubt what is in this book, we'll bring something like it." But it shows you that you are so insecure, that you are so not convinced of your own product, that you need to say, well, produce something like it, and you will never be able to. If you try it, you're going to go to hell.
We read that last week.
Satan brought something like it with these satanic verses. He fooled Muhammad and he fooled the audience that are listening to satanic verses. So that challenge was already met in Muhammad's lifetime already.
No, Facebook user, it doesn't work like that.
Go read the verse, dude. That's why you've got it wrong. We could read it here, but we might do it at the end if we're in the mood and we've got time. Go read the verse. It's not what you're saying. You've misread it. But go and try again.
If you're being stupid, if you are incapable of reading, I don't have to prove to you that you are too stupid to read the Quran. Okay, so I think this was the end. A challenge to which...
Yeah, stop there.
Okay.
Go back 1 sec. Yeah, I mean, no, it doesn't matter. Don't go back. It's fine. But the challenge like it is a shifting of the goalposts, right? So if I said to you, I have got a book that came from Shakespeare that was inspired by the Lord of the Worlds, and somebody says, well, why should I believe that? I say, because you cannot write anything like it. You need to produce something like it. And the first question somebody would have is, well, that's a shifting of the goalpost, but what are the criteria? And those criteria, why should I accept them? What is your criteria for like it, and why should I accept it? Because all I have to do is make up my own criteria and say, hey, it's like it by my criteria. Why are yours better than mine? And even if a God did that, right, all a God is doing is giving criteria that he wants to give, which is entirely his arbitrary decision. Again, that's not impressive at all. We need something objective that's agreed upon by all human beings as to what this criteria is.
Everybody, a round of applause. What do you mean? You mean you've abandoned us? You've been going somewhere else? My goodness. No, good job. Timed out, of course. Okay, the other thing is that we know of the satanic verses. So in other words, the devil has managed to do something. And then, of course, you have 30 different Qurans within the first 200 years. So they all have come up with something similar, with a book like it. So much so that everybody believed it. They recited it. And even today, it's very easy to show how stupid this claim is. You have the Hafs and the Warsh versions, which Muslims tell us are so similar that they are nearly identical. But they are similar, they have different wordings, so the one is a book very much like it. So the Muslims themselves are showing that this is wrong. So this is actually quite funny. Oh God, it shows the stupidity.
But the other thing is this poor fellow can't follow along what we're doing here. We're showing that the claims in this video, my friend, are vacuous and in error. That's what we're doing. I mean, you do need to follow along here.
But this is so unbelievably stupid. Oh my God. Okay, let's take...
Correct. Oops, Stops has jumped himself out there. Yes, of course, the Quran is not from God. The Quran is one of the best evidences, to use your or some people's view, of not being from a God. That's, if somebody asked me why wouldn't I have it? Because the Quran is not. The Quran is evidence against your God. No God. You'd have to set the bar very low, in which case it wouldn't be a God that created that book. But I think Stops has jumped out, lost connection, or something going on there. Why do you need to follow something? Why can't you think for yourself? Use your critical thinking, which admittedly I think every Muslim to some degree lacks, and establish things. There's lots of fields in which you could become an expert. There we go, he's back. You
Stop doing that.
I thought you were doing it. You left us there. How were we that boring?
I don't know what happened. I opened a video and I kicked myself out of the show at the same time. Oh my God. So from what you are saying, let me get this right
But
now.
this,
Quran
this,
is not from God. Oh my
this,
God, he got it. Oh my God, he managed. He has 2 working brain cells.
well, we can chat to him in Discord afterwards. I think that's probably worth it. If you want to talk about it more, I don't know who it is anyway. It just comes up as Facebook user, so we can't see who this person is. But if you want to come onto Discord after the show, we can do so. We'll go through the inheritance error again. We've done it multiple times. It's to a level that a child could understand, right? We're using your book, we're highlighting it, and we're just doing the maths. We've done it many times. So.
Okay. I have one more. StreamYard.
Well, I'm glad you agree that we are practically monkeys. Well, that's what evolution says. I'm glad to hear we've got a Muslim who believes in evolution. That's a rarity, I have to say.
Ah, not bad.
Yep, there we go. You're going to
No.
make it full or no?
What?
There we go.
Thank you.
Another miracle is all of his incredible statements about the end of time. Incredible, I say incredible, but they're credible for us. We believe them. They might be incredible for other people. Because incredible means unbelievable, but we believe them. But I'm using it hyperbolically. So anyway, the Prophet ﷺ told us, who told the Prophet that the buildings in Mecca would reach the tips of the mountains?
I'll just stop it there, stops. I didn't find that one, right? Because that's slightly different to what other Muslims claim. They'll compete with tall buildings, right? So is this a different one or is it the same one?
Same one.
So he's misconstrued it to begin with. They will
Well,
compete.
he's paraphrasing.
Yeah, but when they compete, that's got nothing to do with reaching the height of mountains.
Yeah, but that's what it says in the Hadith. The naked Arabs will compete with each other building tall buildings.
So it's got nothing to do with in relation to a mountain there. Which mountain? Mount Everest or some other mountain? How tall is a mountain? What do you describe a mountain as? Something that's 10 feet high, 100 feet?
Yeah,
or
this is
constitute a
paraphrasing.
mountain?
Yeah, okay. I understand what you're saying. Yes, this is definitely using a different path to do the same thing, yeah.
Who could have imagined that in the 7th century, to have skyscrapers?
Oh, this is a girl?
Okay.
Normally girls have
Use
intelligence.
my God-given intelligence. Okay, well, if you do, and we show you Surah 411 and 412, you should see the mistake and you should stop believing. If you're one of those who claim that your book is inerrant, then you should immediately stop believing. I know you won't, and if I show you the error, either you can't do maths or you will not use your intelligence to whatever level you have it.
But if this is really a girl, you need to go through this step by step, word for word. Come on, I don't believe it, and we've explained it so many times. Okay.
That reach the tips of the mountains. Who told the Prophet ﷺ that the mountains of Mecca would have tunnels?
Where does it say that?
I don't know. This maybe they have, and maybe I don't know what he's doing
I
here.
mean, it's in a hadith. When the
It's in the
mountains
hadith. Notice he doesn't
of Mecca,
tell us which one, right?
when the base is drilled open.
So this is also some. Okay, this will probably be some hadith saying something about when the base is laid bare or something. This is like the knocking, and this is a pulsar and things.
Hang on a sec. Let me just check here. Okay, so it says a hadith here. I'm just looking at it now. It's not clear. Do they say which?
Do you have the original source? Maybe it's in the description.
No, no, no. I'm just looking online for this. Sign of the end times. Prophet Muhammad said, if you see Mecca with holes pierced through its mountains and the buildings reach the mountain tops, then know that the hour has cast its shadow. This is Hadith number 124.
Are you looking at the screen, Rob?
No, sorry, hang on. I was looking at the Hadith there. Oh, yes, that's a problem as well.
Don't know, you are me. Oh shit, you're terrible. I hate myself that I think this is funny. Have you found something, Rob, or should I
Let
continue?
me quickly share screen here and show you
Okay.
this one. This came off Pinterest, so I'm going to assume that it's okay here. Sign of the end times, and it says, this is not from me, by the way, but there's the Hadith number.
Okay.
If you see Mecca with holes pierced through its mountains and buildings reach the mountain tops, then know that the hour has cast its shadow. Whatever the hour casting its shadow, I mean, what's that, like end times, right? Well, which mountains, firstly, and what are holes pierced through its mountains supposed to mean? And now, of course, they're going to equate that with tunnels being built. This is the... It's
desperation.
You have to sigh, right, when you think this. But
Yes.
this is the human mind that is looking for patterns. They already believe it so firmly that now we're going to go look for something that matches it. The exact opposite of the scientific method, which is let's put forward a hypothesis. We don't know what the answer is going to be, and whatever the evidence pushes us towards, we will accept that. This particular sort of thinking is, hey, we've got a conclusion. Let's look in the world to verify our conclusion in some way that is remotely, you can make some sort of vague connection, and it's just incredibly poor and uncritical thinking.
It is, eh? Yeah, but then at the same time, it's also deceptive because, I mean, this guy is not stupid. He knows that he's wrong. He knows that he's grasping at straws. He's just trying to make it palatable for others.
It sounds like
he's just
Hamza
trying
Yusuf,
to,
right? It
Yeah,
sounds
exactly.
like his voice now.
Yeah.
And again, for
So
some reason,
he
he's
knows
revered
exactly
by
that-
some Muslims. I don't know why. but-
Bu'ijat means to like pierce, right? So who told the Prophet ﷺ that? Who told the Prophet ﷺ that women would wear spandex toward?
Oh, what?
Do you know what reference this is to?
No, I need to look it up. I just want to hear if he says a
It's
little bit
half
more.
dressed and half naked.
Yeah. They could be wearing anything if they're half dressed and half naked, and he equates it with spandex. Like, how do you
Because
get there?
because it contours the leg. It's like there's nothing there. You can see the contours of the leg. That's why you're supposed to wear this burqa or something that you don't see the contours of a woman. You don't see the ratio between the hips and the waist, which is supposed to be the most enticing thing for a man. So if this ratio is not visible because it's being covered by something, it's not there. So spandex allows you to see this. This is why you're not allowed to wear it.
Yeah, but other things allow you to see that as well, way before spandex ever came about.
Well, it's a tight-fitting type of clothing, which is
Yeah, sure, but I'm
clothing
saying
you, but
there's
at the
other
same
tight-fitting
time
clothing.
showing the contours.
Yeah, but why specifically that clothing, right? And anyway, where's this verse so we can actually see what it says? Because often
I don't know
the
if he
latter
shows
days.
it.
Because they didn't understand that hadith kasiyatun ariyat, dressed and undressed at the
Yeah,
same time.
exactly. That's what I
We
thought.
understand
Undressed.
that.
No, you don't. You're just making something up and claiming you understand it. Dressed and undressed at the same time is a contradiction. So to avoid a contradiction, you've got to make something up and say, well,
But
that
this is
it
exactly-
looks like it's undressed. No, my friend. If you're saying dressed and undressed and you're going to say it looks like it, I can say that about any verse. I mean, imagine this guy was on the show here. Oh, goodness.
Rob, this is eschatology. This is what they do. This is everything that they are bringing up for the end days are things that don't happen. The sun coming up from the west, the mountains floating past like clouds. So these are all things that are impossible, which are suddenly made possible to show that this is a once only event. After that, nothing is
but
going
not-
to be the
yeah,
same.
but you can't have a contradiction, Stops. And just an answer to this question, we don't think that, but your Quran does. So again, it doesn't sound like you've ever read the Quran. We don't think that men are controllers, but your book says so. So again, if you have an issue with that, best read the Quran and decide on whether you accept it or not.
But why is the Muslim so stupid? I can't understand this. Okay.
Fortunately, right? I mean, we understand that. But who would have understood that in the 7th century Arabia?
Who would have understood this?
Well, nobody understood it in the 7th century Arabia, and nobody
Yeah,
understood
but hang on,
it
this
today.
is an American using English slang who would have, it's have, and it's only some British people who it substitute have into an of. Who would have understood that? Because normally in English it's who would have. So now you have an American who uses like an English dialect, transferring or whatever, making a have into an of. It's so weird for me.
Understood that in the 7th century Arabia. Read the tafsir, they didn't understand it. They're like, how could you be dressed and naked at the same time?
Well, you can't.
So they said things like, kasiyat fi dunya, ariyat fil akhirah. Everybody's ariyat fil akhirah on the Day of Judgment. We now know what that means. The Prophet
you don't.
ﷺ said that
You just
people
claim
would
you do.
walk in marketplaces, badiyatul afkhad, with their thighs bare. Civilized people never do that. Primitive people don't create marketplaces. Primitive people barter. You know, they live they don't have marketplaces. That's the difference
There were
between
markets around at that
civilized.
time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, this is crazy. I mean, the Kaaba was the marketplace. That's exactly city center. That's where the markets
This guy
were.
is supposedly an intelligent Muslim, or at least some Muslims think so. And this is what Islam does to the human brain. It switches off the critical thinking, and the brain is now looking for a pattern that it can connect with the Quran to convince itself, not any critical thinking person, I would add, but convince itself more that the Quran is true. So you look for things. Look what it says. That must mean the case. That helps me believe it. And maybe some gullible Muslims, but to the rest of us, we just look at this as if this guy is like, he's on a drug here, where the critical thinking is completely gone on vacation. It's like and I say it many times, it's a fascinating look into human psychology, where you've got to believe this sort of stuff to keep your book, believable to you, or to convince yourself and those that don't want to have critical thinking that it's true.
It's public relations, yeah.
But it's
One of the differences between civilized and so he's
Sorry.
No, carry on, it's cool.
talking about people in aswaq, in malls, walking with shorts on. Who told the Prophet ﷺ?
No, he's talking about markets. Where do you get malls from?
And it's bare thighs. You don't go
So
to a
many-
mall with bare thighs.
See, look how he changes from bare thighs to shorts on in a mall. I mean, this again, if you're watching this, listen to this, engage. Most of our viewers have got critical thinking, but those that don't, he swaps between a market to a mall and from a bare thigh to shorts, and now wants to equate that this is what the Prophet was actually talking about, not what the time is, and who could have told him that. This is just amazing, and he'll pat himself on the back and go to sleep feeling like he's done something amazing, and the rest of us will be face palming and wondering how a brain can be so short-circuited.
Yeah. Facebook user, if you want to stick around, we're going to finish with this video, then you have all our attention and we have time for you, no problem. But at the moment, you're just making yourself look really, really, really stupid and incompetent. So I suggest you don't do that. If you want to stick around, that's cool. But at the moment, you're just being silly.
Things that he said, who told him that destitute Bedouin would be vying with one another to build tall buildings in the Arabian desert?
Yeah, okay.
Who told him that all this money would come to the Arabian desert? Who told him?
They're not vying, they're getting people who actually understand how to build buildings, to build some buildings. They couldn't build it themselves if their life depended on it. And if they did, there would be low buildings. Those high buildings are by architects and engineers that are not Muslim. That's almost like a miracle by today's standards. So they're not vying themselves, they're paying other people. All they do is float around in the desert. They couldn't build a building
that the Arabian Peninsula would be turned into gardens and have green.
I just wanted to say something there.
Yeah, I think I've said this before as well. One has to bear in mind that at that time in history, there already were, depending on your perspective, tall buildings, pyramids, the Colosseum, another building. So depending on what your perspective is, how do you define a tall building?
Exactly.
You know, considering if you're an Arab where you're living in huts and things and tents and things like that, and you're a Bedouin, you go to somewhere like Rome if you're a trader, or some trader has just come back from Rome or some other location on earth like Egypt. He's going to come back with some absolutely fantastic stories about tall buildings.
Exactly, and those aren't tall by today's standards, right?
No.
Now, if here's a thing for the Facebook user, right? Again, how do we make this better? If God had said, in the year 1400 or whatever, however you want to do the Arabic version of that, there will be a building that is X height, and obviously they weren't using meters or feet or whatever the measurement is, and it will reach this height, and it will be completed in this year, and it'll be magnificent. It'll be done by people who are not Arabs. That would be, I would be going, okay, that's not bad. That's a bit more precise. Compare that, what I've just said, with this vague and vacuous claim, and then come back to us. But this is why I say we're here to help think, critical thinking, just like Thunderous did. What constitutes a tall building? No criteria. It could be 3 stories. It could be 5 stories. What's 100 stories? Is it 200 stories? When somebody else builds a taller building, what happens then? Does that claim disappear? Is it only relevant for like a few years? I mean, come on. Your God can surely do better than this.
It should be able.
I can.
Now you go and you can see these amazing gardens. I mean, they actually have skiing in Dubai. Like,
What does a garden have to do with skiing in Dubai?
have snow. So all these things. I mean, the Prophet ﷺ, he told all these things.
No, he didn't. He talked about skiing in
You read
Dubai.
the signs of the end of time, and you're like, it's not like Nostradamus, where
That's
it's
exactly what it's like.
These are
Exactly.
like
Actually got a
clear
few of them
signs.
better than yours. He got some
I mean,
wrong,
the Prophet ﷺ said that children, he said, al-mataru sayakunu qayda.
Stupid.
Like, rain would be acidic. Qayd
No, he
means to
didn't.
burn. Who told him about acid rain? And then
That
who
happened.
told him, sallallahu alayhi
Stop it there. Stop. Go ahead, Thunderous.
That happened for one moment in history in the early 80s about the acid rain. You can't, if it predicted, say, global warming or El Nino, those sort of things would have been more incredible because you would not have even been able to consider the concept of global warming back in, or man-made carbon or any of these contributions, or nuclear power or nuclear waste, or fossil fuel, for instance, and the pollution that creates. That would have been an interesting thing to read in the Quran. But
Look at the attitude. Look at a different kind of glasses. If you look at what things are impossible, well, water is supposed to cool you, and now all of a sudden it burns you. That's all it is. It's another thing that can't happen to a desert nomad at the time. It's just another thing. He's just
That's talking about like end times, isn't it?
It's
that sort of
equivocation.
thing.
This is
Yeah,
the end
everything
times.
is
All he's doing is
inverted.
just equivocating certain words and saying, well, you see, the burning in there is the burning that we know from. No, it's not. It's a different ball game altogether. So that's crazy.
Well, why don't you come and talk on
about,
Discord
I
just
mean, we
now?
know, I'm
and the end time,
just saying,
the acid rain was a phenomenon. If I remember correctly, this took place somewhere, I think in Norway, Sweden. It was some part of Northern Europe, and it only happened for about 2-3 years. That was it.
historically, these for us, these are all signs. He said, "Wal-waladu ghayda," the child would be filled with rage.
Oh, no children
would be
are
filled with rage. It's amazing. And he said, he said that the low people would be everywhere. And he said, noble.
We can laugh about it for sure, but it really is sad that somebody who otherwise sounds articulate will say this is amazing. It's if you think about it, really, it's a very sad indictment of a human brain that has been infected, and just where the critical thinking, where I've got to find something that remotely I can make some sort of vague, tenuous, vacuous connection, and then I'll sleep peacefully. Because this whole thing to me it's saying it for himself and the gullible. No critical thinking person could ever accept this.
Yep.
People would diminish. They would just begin to disappear. He said, how will you be when you're amongst the leftovers of humanity? Like the party's over. It's all the crumbs and the scraps. I mean, just look how people dress. Look how people have always dressed nobly throughout human history. Nobody ever dressed like modern people. Nobody.
What?
People all over the world, in tribes around the world, dress much more less modestly than people do today, and that was entirely natural, and it was fine. I mean, it's like this guy has never left a modern country. He's never been to a country where there are, other tribes and they're in tune with nature, and they don't see it as being evil or bad or whatever the case is. Like, this guy's like got blinkers on here.
He's trying to also, when
In
it says
history.
dress more nobly, you can see what he's trying to get at there. He's trying to give the image that the Arabs in Muhammad's day dressed more nobly back
Exactly.
then. That's what he's
That's
trying
all
to
it is. That's all it is.
Romans had togas. The Persians had their robes. All these people, I mean, even native peoples had their feathers because they knew, they had some sense of what human beings are. Now people walking out, they walk around
Forget that women used to walk around
hundreds
topless
of
and stuff
dollars
like that in
for
Africa,
rags.
in North America, South America, Australia.
They pay
etc.
hundreds of dollars for rags. Now, what's happened to human beings that this is their state? I mean, you have to marvel at the leftovers. It's just amazing. But there were days, I mean, look, there were days when heroes walked the earth. Like now, they want to, every hero they just have to tear down. Everybody of any distinction, they have to tear them down. They have to destroy them. They have to expose.
They were trying to tear down heroes. And who are the heroes that he's referring to anyway? All quote-unquote heroes had a nemesis or nemesis. People would find the ill in them, try and tear them down. That's part of human nature from the beginning of time. What are you talking about?
Them, show how they're just like everybody else. There's nothing special about them. This is a sickness of people. It's all this leveling. And there were great people, and I've sat with sanctified souls. I know it. I've been in their company. I've been in their presence. I felt their hal.
That's your claim.
So
Now
these are
demonstrate it.
real. They're
Your feelings
real.
don't constitute
And
a
the
rational
awliya
argument.
are real. The people of Allah are real. And the lovers of the Prophet ﷺ, they know what they have, and they know what they have in their hearts.
Yeah, this is just
And the
rhetoric.
people that don't have that, they don't know. But Abu Hanifa said, if kings knew what we had, they would send their armies to take it from us.
What exactly do you have? You have a desert with some palm trees. Why would anybody want that? The only thing they want is the oil underneath there, which you guys couldn't make use of, didn't know existed, and somebody else had to come and do it there for you anyway. What are you talking about? You should really listen to Pascal's wager. Oh my word. Pascal's wager, again, we can educate you on Pascal's wager. It's an intellectually dishonest position and easy to show you. I'll use you as an example. Come on Discord, we'll give you the Discord link and we can help sort you out. No problem.
Okay, Facebook user, have you found out where you made the mistake? Where you didn't read properly? Have you worked it out by yourself, or do you need somebody to point the finger and take your finger and go along the line so that you can see it? You didn't read my comment. Scroll up. You made a stupid mistake. You have a problem reading. You did not read the corresponding sentence. You skipped the word each. And if you read it again, you will see the word each. And when you see the word each, you will realize, oh goodness, I've made a mistake. I'm a stupid person, and I've embarrassed myself in front of all these people. Or the next time, you will just go to an inheritance calculator, enter the numbers into an inheritance calculator the way that we've propagated for the last 15 years, and then you will see you are wrong and that there's a mistake in the Quran and you cannot correct it. You cannot make it better. I'm sorry. Is there anything else that we need to address?
No, I'm just posting the link in the Facebook group because obviously you can't see it on the show itself. So I've posted the link in the Facebook group. This person is Simone Jamila. I don't know who that is, but I can see the person's name now. Simone Jamila, I can see you on Facebook. I've now posted a link. Join that link after the show is about to end now, and you can come on to Discord and we can talk about it. I'll show you why you're mistaken on certain things, or you can attempt to respond if you want. There you go.
Okay, but Can I make a print? No, I'm not going to make a prediction.
No, don't. We do it afterwards. Cool. 10 o'clock on the dot. Good timing.
Wow. All right, ladies, gents, and others. Final words before I go to the Hadith, which is going to be a picture today.
Nope. I think we've dealt with these awful, vacuous, nebulous miracle claims, and I think we've explained why, the human psychology unfortunately gets affected. If you had a high bar, you wouldn't need to go with these really poor ones. But
What is a red motherfucker? Can't I be a black motherfucker or a green one? Why do I have to be a red one?
I think it's worth adding as well. Maybe or maybe not relevant, but the things that we've been discussing, you'd be coming at it from, say, an atheist point of view, but there's also somebody who proposes intelligent design on the panel as well. So it's not strictly biased as only atheists are making these claims or statements about the Quran. I don't believe in atheism or evolution, and I don't accept what the Quran's saying either. So there are two perspectives that I was saying that's coming to the same conclusion.
Yeah, but the thing is, we have the facts. You see, we have the data, we have reality, we have all these things at our disposal. What a Muslim doesn't have. A Muslim only has wishful thinking and claims. That's all there is. So, it's very difficult for them to come up with any kind of argument. So we take their claims and we refute their claims. And the Quran says it is correct without any mistakes, without anything. So we go and we look at the basic arithmetic, the fractions, and we see it doesn't add up. So there is a mistake. So the claim of the Quran is there's no mistake. We compare it with reality, there is a mistake. What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to keep quiet and say, well, the Quran is making the mistake, but it's claiming that it's not, but we're just going to ignore it? The Quran says it is protected. It is preserved. Nothing has ever happened to it. Nothing has ever changed. Now we look at reality, we see, yes, it has. So what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to say, well, the Quran makes the claim that it's not, but if we look at reality, it is? What do? Do we just pretend like we don't see this? Should we just close our eyes and pretend nobody can see us? So, this is... All right. Look at the scientific facts. Listen,
Stop.
Facebook
Don't take the bait. Let's finish it off.
I have
deal with it
in the speakers corner. I've said, please provide me with one single statement in the Quran that is correct, and you can't. Okay, we are going to look at the Hadith of the day, which is Sahih Muslim, Volume 3, number 513. Which says a believer eats in one intestine, whereas a non-believer eats in 7 intestines. Because Ibn Umar reported Allah's Messenger as saying that a non-Muslim eats in 7 intestines, while a Muslim eats in 1 intestine. And this is repeated in several other graded Sahih hadiths. So there are several stomachs in the belly of a non-believer.
I think I've had a gutful already.
Again, but the good thing is that's a falsifiable claim, right? All we need is a Muslim and a non-Muslim, and we can X-ray them. Or indeed, if we had ill people where they needed surgery, we could easily check that, and we could see whether that claim is true.
Okay, so if you want to, we're going to have an after show. We're going to go to Discord. It's not recorded, so if anybody wants to come and join there, absolutely, go ahead. We'll see you there. Otherwise, any closing words?
No, it's been good. Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody
guys.
for listening, and
Thank
to
you.
my panelists.
Thank you to the guys here. Thank you to the audience out there listening to us, giving us support, and of course, giving us a thumbs up before we close the show, and sharing it and telling others about it. If anybody, there's 2 things. If anybody wants us to critique a specific video, please let us know. And I don't know if you've noticed, Rob and I sometimes do impromptu things when we have an hour or 2. We just go and take any old video and comment on that. If there's anything that you want to do, or you want to hear our opinion on, then please give it to us, send it to us. And if there's anything that you want to discuss here on the show, if you want anybody to come here and discuss with us, please bring them here. Absolutely no problem. We look forward to any kind of, let's say, challenge or correction, because that's how we learn. Thank you very much. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Good night.